Right, let's start. Alright, welcome to the Blockchain Centre. As we start, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and future. This is my intro. I do this every week. We talk trade. So who's new so I can direct my speech to them? 1, 2. Fantastic. If I look through you, everybody else is supposed to speak. So, I know. So the Blockchain Centre opened in November 2014. Actually, if there's anybody new in Facebook Live out there, this is directed to you as well. Firstly, all content here is not financial advice or legal advice. So if you do need that, please go outside and do your due diligence and even talk to us, and we can direct you to the right people. To ask that, notice photography, as you can see, Facebook Live is on this evening. If you do want to turn around and say hello to them, you do. Blockchain Centre runs under education, co-working, and community. We have introductory classes, workshops, and more. But what's coming up? Tomorrow we've got Investing in Cryptocurrency workshop that Anouk, your moderator this evening, will be doing. We also have a Hyperledger presentation by IBM. I will talk later about the VIP community member of Blockchain Centre, but if you are a VIP community member, Hyperledger presentation is free tomorrow. It's only $15, so please sign up through Eventbrite. James Papito, trying to remember how to pronounce his surname. He's doing this Sunday Psychology of Trading. That's the one, thanks. Monday we have NEM 101. Next Thursday we've got ICO coming in from Boston to talk about their blockchain. So it's a blockchain that they created for not-for-profits and other charities out there to use. They've been working with UNICEF at the moment on a DApp that's working in South Africa. So if you are interested in social consciousness, social enterprises, charities, not-for-profits, NGOs, please come to that one. And next month, fundraising through ICOs and Blockchain Developers course is starting in June. It is now discounted. Karen, developers course, what's the special on that? 2 days, $9.95. 2 days is only $9.95 now. So please go to our Eventbrite page. There it is, Blockchain Developers course starting 2nd of June. Block Engine, we went to demo day. I wish you did. It's still on Facebook Live. Fantastic. Nearly 500 people coming. 10 pitches from our startups. That's the Blockchain Incubator Program. We're starting in September again. So if you are interested, please email info@blockchaincentre.com.au. Co-working, the space. Somebody was asking about co-working earlier. Talk to us at the end of it. But it's 200 and all those inclusions. But it's not just a space. It's about meeting all the people here and talking about who is in the centre and getting acquainted with investors that come through the door or international ICOs presenting through here as well. Meet up at Eventbrite. Partners, which is here. Blockchain Global, ACX, Cointree, IBM, Digital X. But without them, we wouldn't have this centre. But just going back, we had the VIP membership that I was talking about earlier. So it's only $50 per year, and tonight, and I think maybe next week is the last week, where you can get a free t-shirt, a Blockchain Centre t-shirt. And you'll get all these $50 towards your next workshop. It could be investing in cryptocurrency tomorrow night, or it could be fundraising through ICOs next month. Education library, like the tax one that we did a couple of weeks ago, or last month. Merchandise, and for tomorrow's IBM Hyperledger, if you are signing up to become a VIP community member, that's free for you. So it's $50, that's free, and you get a t-shirt. That's $45 worth of value at the moment. It's only an extra $5. That's my sales pitch. Other industry partners through there, Agile Legal, if you do need legal consulting advice. Our social media channels, which is the Verbi. And that was last week. But just for those people, Glad Age was going to be sponsoring this evening. They will sponsor. Unfortunately, they had to go meet investors up in Sydney from the weekend Bitcoin Expo in Sydney. So We wish them well, but we hope that they will sponsor in the next few weeks. So now we are going to go to our talks. So as I said last week, I wanted people to just have I think about a presentation, and tonight the first talk is going to be a small presentation, 10 minutes from Alex, and he's going to be talking about hash graph. So that's going to be the first one we have, and this is what we're going to be trialing out there. If there is something that you do want to research and you want to talk about and present so we can discuss, just to inform the community, it's something that we'll definitely be trying and keep on going with it. We are also, the first question is going to be for any new person, and we're going to be talking about sentiments within the community. So people can start sharing their thoughts. If there is a specific question that you want to ask, more for somebody new that's coming in here, whether it's how are you dealing with the current regulations, or what are you doing with your taxes? Do you feel informed? Do you feel that you have the right resources to get your taxes because of crypto? Or do you know enough information about it? Or just an idea, create an event like this, John. Those are things that we want to talk about, so put your hands up when it comes on, and then we'll go to Slido for a couple of questions that's a bit more technical that we can talk about and what our experiences are. So, Slido.com 6188 is this week's code, so please put that and put all your details there. But for now, thank you very much for listening to me, even though you've heard this many times. But please welcome Alex from University of Melbourne.
Thanks, Sean. Just to get an idea, does anyone ever heard of hash graph? Yeah, it's quite a few. Fantastic. So it's kind of got like two sides of the story, where you've got the non-social actors who kind of find the open source, and there's a paint on the technology itself that's something that's free, and there's also the very technological side, which has some significant pros of traditional blockchain technology. So I want to try and give you a very simplistic overview and provide a balanced approach tonight. Provided my PowerPoint is quite small in comparison to some out there. I'd definitely go check it out after when you get time to do a bit of research. Swirls and the gentleman that created Lehman Bard has a lot of fantastic resources out there describing a bit more about it. All right.
Answer your email. I know we grill people technically, but come on, give them a break.
Yeah, no, just if you guys want to grill me, that's fine. Go for it. No, not at all. This is just interest. I have no. What's the disclaimer you normally say? I have no connection to these guys whatsoever. Just So I've only really looked into this in the last week and a half, so I'm still very fresh to this sort of tech. It kind of got my interest recently when they had a couple of events come up in the last 3 months in New York, where they had a live demo of 500,000 transactions a second in front of everyone. That was a single shard. It was on one computer, but then it was only on one continent, so one region. They had 500,000 transactions, which was pretty interesting. But then what they did do is recently, I think in the last 2 weeks, is they did 50,000 transactions a second across 5 continents. With, it was like 1 second latency as well. And yeah, this was pretty interesting. So I'll just see how we go. So yeah, it's a new form of decentralized ledger tech. It has this unique consensus algorithm called gossip without gossip. So proof of gossip, Bitcoin uses as well. But it uses virtual voting with gossip without gossip to reach consensus very, very fast. And then we'll talk a bit more about why it's fast, secure, fair, and how it requires very little computational power compared to proof of work. So the structure it is, you might have heard of IOTA. They use a structure called a DAG. This is the same, the direct the graph. But differently to blockchain, we're storing events rather than blocks. And the events can be any size. They're not limited by any amount of transactions you can put in. which is pretty interesting. You go there, you can see problems with that, but we're going into more detail later on. So yeah, it is, and then Liam Barber's the guy who initially created it. So why is it fast? So apart from the hundreds of thousands of transactions, the second is latency as well. And then we just want to know some of the use cases of this. If we look through history of the last sort of 4 generations, we've gone from sort of cryptocurrencies to ledgers to smart contracts and now to the markets. We need to have a lot of transactions per second, very fast, very secure. And this could be one of the things that solves that problem, as well as the last 3 generational problems. Also very useful in games. So I don't know if anyone played RuneScape back in the day, but there's a big problem when you went out in the wilderness and you were trying to pick up the items very quickly. But if someone else came in and was trying to pick up the items with you, there wasn't really as much ordering as whoever picked up the item first tries to allow whoever there first picks up the item of greater value, sort of thing. And that talks about the use case we was discussing before. So yeah, ABFT, so asynchronous fires time fault tolerance. So it's not practical BFT, it's not just BFT. So it is 100% certain, whereas with Bitcoin you've got this asymptotic sort of thing where you're not really sure, it just gets better over time, you get more verifications. But yeah, this is you become 100% sure. And then, so you've got all this that survives through as well. And if people don't know what sidewalk tax are, it's where you have, say, one vote or a person who has influence over a large group of people that gives them votes and then says, hey, let's all attack the system at the same time with the votes. So it's like a DDoS with votes. Now, this is also the assumption that no 1/3 of the network is malicious. And this is the best you can get with this required time agreement. We also assume the intent's malicious firewalls. So, we as a community do come to an agreement on the transaction ordering, and you do know when the agreement has been reached. We'll go to this later. So, fair. So no one can, there's 3 types of fairness to this. There's the fair access, the fair ordering, and then the fair timestamps. And then no one obviously can manipulate the flow. It's achieved by the timestamp assignment, and then consensus timestamp is assigned to each transaction. So yeah. So let's talk about it. Gossip about gossip. What is it? And the idea is that every event will talk to other events randomly, and then this will just be exponentially throughout the system. So when we're talking about, you got to think of this like software, and all the decentralized apps are built on top of this. So they've recently built hetero hash graph. We'll talk about that. And hetero hash graph is the technology and software that will build upon the hash graph. So if Alice goes to Dave, then Dave will then randomly choose Bob, Alice will randomly choose Gina, and so on and so forth. And so this is interesting. It's unclear in the algorithm used because they don't want to give too much away being painted, but some of the stuff is pretty interesting. So yeah, so there's a problem. Millions of transactions sent at the same time. So say in a leader-based system like Paxless, you're going to have this sort of ordering where they'll take time to decide who goes first, and this massively slows down the system. So with transactions in Hashgraph, it doesn't matter. There's no ordering. They're just sent out at the same time straight away, and then this continues, obviously. But then you come to the idea, well, if you look around, how do we reach consensus? Where does the order come from? See, now we haven't reached consensus yet. So this is where we come to the next bit. How does this happen? So this is where the hashes come in. And I'll go to the next slide just quickly to give you a breakdown. But in the event, similar to the blockchain, the 2 hashes, the timestamps, signature, and then as many transactions as you want, you can put in. And it wouldn't you wouldn't want to put in too many because it happens so fast. It just wouldn't be pointless. Blockchain, and then this is the graph structure, and each event travels along hash from the previous to the next, and the 2 hashes. and from those two hashes, it's able to know the whole history of the hash graph. And that's what we need to go back to form the gossip gossip. So that's what they're trying to do. And then virtual voting, where every event knows, because they know what's happening in the hash graph. Every event then can virtually vote, so they can do it all in their head. They don't actually need to pass and do it like a whole voting system, because that's very inefficient, takes a lot of time. They can just do it automatically in their head. And that's the idea of virtual voting, what these guys are trying to do. And then to go through this, it takes a bit of time because they have rounds. So this is normally segregated into 4 different rounds, which is an algorithm to work out which ones are in the rounds. And then on top of that, you've got to have votes and form a supermajority to vote up one of the events. And that's another thing in itself, which takes a while to explain. Or more. That's proofs as well. So this is what we just have is the data structure, the directed asymmetric graph, and it's stored in this blocks in the blockchain. So yeah, this is where it comes in. The governance and the paint is decentralized. Well, the hash graph itself is owned by Swells, the company, and Liam Bard, who was the creator of it, has a paint on the technology. And so what they've done now is they've created a second layer on top of Hashgraph called the Hedera Hashgraph Council. And the idea of this is they've got a governance model where they have 39 corporations across 5 continents to overlook and kind of provide guidance for the Hashgraph. And there are terms in that to dictate that no single member or group of small members can undue influence over the system. But then that's also isn't centralized in itself. But the idea is to prevent unnecessary fraud and provide stability. And then private permission ledgers. So they're working on what's one that's called CU Ledger, which is a project. So all the credit unions in America have actually chosen this technology over Hyperledger to run their new software. So they had to buy a license, obviously, and this is permissioned. And then Swells gets 10% of the profits of Hedera. And this is I was talking about. So Hedera takes 10% of the no rewards fees, which is a proof of stake model. Anyone can run a node and use a service and develop apps on the platform without the need of licenses. You go to Swells and you can download an SDK. And then it's built on top of the permission Hashgraph defensive platform, which provides these resources. Yeah. And then funny enough, they use the same Ethereum virtual machine for their smart contracts. That's the general layout. Yeah, so anyway, just some small views on that. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions about Hashgraph? Or anybody have any comments?
Why do they have secret blocks in Hashgraph?
Secret
Blocks.
Oh, why do they have secret?
Yeah.
Well, it's more to do with the algorithms. They have like massive mathematical proofs, and to go through those, they haven't gone online. You can read the white paper, and the white paper goes through most of the mathematical proofs they have in great detail and explains. But there's just a couple of algorithms that are left out so that people can't piece them parts and actually create the technology. That's what I believe. So, yeah, it's different binary.
Yeah, but it's not a weakness because.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, so there's a weakness because if they have to defend that little block, if they have to defend the algorithm in the little block, that means.
They don't really have to defend it much.
That's not symmetry. It's not depending on the possibility of it's depending on that little block with the algorithm.
The code's not really auditable. So the code's not really auditable if they're keeping a secret part of it. And then it becomes centralized because it's dependent on them and it can't be by a part of the community that wants to implement it.
Yeah, you can't come up with an alternative block that's open source. And you can't do it anyway. So if you're
reverse engineer their blog and then start a portion of the code that doesn't charge as much fees.
All right, any other comments, questions about Hashgraph? If you do want to discuss it, Alex will be here afterwards, so please do. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. So that's what we're trying to do. If you do want to research anything for next week, if you want to write a blog, if you know something, if you want to research a regulation that's being put up there, or if you want to know what new taxes are happening and want to present that, we don't need you to be the expert of the topic, just for you to do some research so we can have conversations, discussions, and talk about it. But for now, let's welcome Anouk to moderate.
Hi guys. Ah, there's another one. Beautiful. So I hope everybody brought some good ideas in. Now we have a few suggestions up already. Thinking of starting with something that's broadly applicable. Now I think we spoke at some length last week about BTC versus BCH. So potentially I think that's okay, we can leave that till later on in the evening if people want to dig further into that one. Now, Roger Ver has suggested Goldman Sachs rolling out their own digital fiat token. Current crypto market trend, what is the hot crypto to buy? I think this possibly everything in there is going to be incredibly subjective and opinionated, but who has some opinions on that topic? No? Recommendations from financial advisors and taxing agents. Who out there is looking for financial advisors and tax agents? It's a few people. Who here has used anyone apart from crypto tax that they would highly recommend?
Yeah, I watch.
Yep.
Tony Clements out at Mount Waverley.
Tony Clements out at Mount Waverley. Oh, well, so they're... Oh, yes, this is going out on live, so we're good, yes. We've got a few things coming here. HTC's new project Exodus, blockchain smartphone with universal wallet and hardware support for cryptocurrency and dApps. So it's not the only one out there, but who actually knows anything about Exodus? I'm asking. You use the Exodus wallet?
Does it have any relation to Exodus the wallet? Like the...
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a project name.
It's just a project name, so it's completely different. That's what I'm hearing here. I don't actually use the Exodus wallet. So let's find out. Yeah, Google that, no worries. Who has the 10,000 pizza BTC? Yes. I think they would have eaten it by now. It's the most expensive. Yes. So one of those famed pizza orders. It was 2 pizzas that were ordered. Who has them? The Bitcoins.
And the real question is, what would be worth more, the Bitcoin or the pizzas now that they're famous?
The pizzas would have been eaten.
And if they still were around,
I think
they kept them like frozen or something.
I know I wouldn't pay what would that be now? 100 million odds. I wouldn't pay 100 million for a pizza box.
The Exodus is a phone way.
Yeah. It's a phone with built-in hardware support. And there's another, it's not the only hardware supported phone that I've heard of. There's another one that comes through here every now and then. Thoughts on CBA CFO quitting and joining a blockchain startup? Well, this blockchain stuff is a fad. We all know that. This never worked. Banks will be around forever, and you know.
AI and so people track it. He was CFO at Combank for a year. Just resigned like this week.
I saw the heading about that. I didn't actually read the full details on it.
We moved back to Hong Kong and started called
Blockchain.
So EOS. Oh, so EOS.
Yeah, he's joined EOS.
Okay.
It's good for credibility. Yeah.
The CFO's left to join a crypto company.
There isn't a CEO
I like
now,
it.
so there's structural change now.
Yeah, but have the CEO of a Combank of a bank.
Yeah. Well, because there's new CEOs that's come in, there's been a structural change where executive managers throughout the bank is actually, they've gone and moved.
Yeah, but he's not doing general finance.
No, he's completely left. That's the structural change, yeah.
Yeah, he's not doing like another bank or
No, he just completely gone. His light bulb switched off.
So he looks like the first of many.
I don't think
Yeah.
they read too much into that. They've just been put under the heat by the world.
And it's great publicity, right? It's a publicity piece. Like it gives you some credibility if your project's attracting. Not yet.
I get that, but my point is thinking, why wouldn't we go to another a bank in another country or work for another bank somewhere?
CEO of a bank is going to work for any other company. Why is that? He's on top of it. He's in his industry already. If you want to go somewhere else, you want to be somewhere more creative.
A new challenge.
He's already on top of his industry.
But I think it's starting to roll because one of the global partners of Deloitte,
Michael, it's not leading Combank blockchain to a normal small bank.
I think, yeah. I see too many headings about these things and go, I'll open up a tab and I'll read that later. I have like 25 of these, like lots and lots of these. They float by every now and then. And look, there are, you know, if I look back 9 months ago, then every second headline was, you know, CEO of Goldman Sachs bashes crypto, says, you know, Bitcoin is an index for corruption and money laundering, and you know, all it is terrorist financing. And then nowadays it's, well, actually it turns out that, you know, Bank of America has the most patents. Here we have people that have been found out to have their own investments in crypto while they're slagging it off. They're leaving. So the stories are starting to shift and starting to change. That's definitely
I don't really know why we care what banks are doing. Like, isn't that what we're trying to kind of supersede here? So why do we care about the CFO, CBA moving into blockchain? Yeah, but I mean, like, why do we care? Like, we shouldn't care about what banks are doing.
It legitimizes the industry.
Blockchain is not about being legitimized, though. Blockchain is about being a thing. Why do we care about it being $9 trillion? That'll happen naturally. We don't need the CFO of CBA to move over to that.
We certainly don't need the CFO to move over.
People that have got all the money.
Yeah. I mean, that might have something to do with the price, but not like the technology.
So we don't necessarily need any one of these individual people to move over. All of this is happening within a context where we still have the dominant monopoly currencies extracted, right? So people can be trading Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrencies, but currently there are still a lot of demands for national bank monopoly currencies that, you know, people are still demanding. People pay their rent, pay their food, and it's a lot more difficult to meet those needs with these alternative currencies at this point, and therefore we have these exchanges and those sorts of things. To get to mass adoption, I think that we, as an industry, we do need the legitimacy and we need the investments of, I'll call it fiat money, that legitimization brings. And yeah, I would love for everybody just to spontaneously switch over and say, you know what, I'll stop accepting the currency that the government demands with force is legal tender, and I'll go to something else. But I think we won't get there without the investment that people who hold the large amounts, the corporates, actually control. But that's my personal opinion. I see you disagree with that.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I don't really care about what they do. This is like about the technology, and the technology is probably, to be honest with you, not at a point where we can have that many people coming on. We saw what happened, you know, like in the huge like bubble coming up like 3 months ago. It wasn't ready, and maybe like there are some advances which are coming down the road, but there needs to be like some infrastructure of things put in place before we're ready for like the grandmas and grandpas like with their their super funds to like come in.
If CryptoKitties breaks the second biggest project out there, then we're certainly not ready for, let's say, all Nokia phones running a blockchain project. You know, it needs to be some next generation hash graph, for instance.
I don't think that's going to be the solution.
I don't think hash graph personally, but that's, you know, something of a superior architecture.
He's moving across the EOS now. The EOS solves all of those problems, doesn't it?
So does Holochain.
So the market's ready for scalability.
So that's, yeah, so Holochain, but I don't think it's up on the board, but I could rant on about that for a few hours. Who here is interested in Holochain? Awesome. Okay. Beautiful. So yeah, Holochain is another different architecture that's designed to be more scalable. Really, it's developed to be a messaging and communications bus to run distributed internet, really. So it's built to run decentralized applications. So beyond applications, beyond currency and transactions, it's supposed to run your distributed Facebooks, Twitters, Airbnbs, Ubers, whatever applications you want to share. And because of that, it doesn't rely on every single message you send being verified by expensive consensus mechanisms. So it doesn't have a data-centric approach where everything is uploaded and saved into a blockchain that is duplicated. Rather, everyone maintains their own chain according to the rules of the application they're working in, and every transaction or change you make, you publish a header that's gradually distributed across a distributed hash table, so that if you try and falsify your records, that will be caught by the rest of the network. And when you're engaging in a transaction with another agent, then you sign that transaction and they sign that transaction, meaning you can't change any of
anything in that transaction without forging their signature, which effectively can't be done in effective time. So that's an extra layer that you can't roll back over because, again, you have the published headers. So really, that's Holochain in a very brief nutshell. The idea is that for any types of transactions that don't require universal consensus, such as if you're publishing a tweet, everybody doesn't have to verify that you've actually said those words. You can make that transaction instantaneously without waiting for any of the rest of the network, and the rest of the network will catch up whenever it does, without using any extra computational power to do so. When it does come to, here's a piece of real estate changing ownership, or here is me registering a unique type of currency or username, then only then does the application built on top of Holochain actually force some consensus throughout the network, which may have more overhead depending on how that's written in. Anyone have any more comments? Oh yeah, they just finished their ICO and they went up about 20-fold and they hit their 20 million market cap. Yep.
So 2 questions. With the consensus, do they have to sync the network to get consensus? Like, do they have to catch everything up?
So it's eventual consensus is the idea.
If you want to do a transaction and need consensus, you have to sync.
So there is a delay that you can build in for anything that's, for high value transactions, for instance. You can wait a period of time for header collisions, and that would be the period of time for effective consensus.
And what's the difference from spamming the network with a whole bunch of transactions? Because there's not much computing.
Not much computing power. So you can build in transaction fees, but for the most part, you're spamming yourself with that as much as you're spamming anybody else. So it's, you can build transaction costs into the app if you wish to do so. Ultimately, you're using your own processing power and you're not really burdening the rest of the network in terms of expensive, if you're doing storage intensive things and you're, sending large files across with things, that's where the applications have different mechanisms that applications can design on top of that to make sure the costs of having those stored on the network are covered. And one of the mechanisms for that is the hollow fuel. So the ICO was effectively selling the hollow tokens, which will be hollow fuel, which is a mutual credit currency that is a currency for paying for computing power, storage, and communications, so bandwidth. And effectively, they're expecting it to be above 1 million times as efficient as Ethereum, basically because they're not duplicating every line of code across every node. Anyone? No? Cool. And well, we have a couple of people wanting to talk about Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin. Let's have a proper discussion. All right. So I think we're going to need a microphone for Harrison, and who wants? You'll take on the BCH. Awesome.
No, I'll take the BCH side.
You'll take the BCH side.
Oh, surprise!
Awesome. You want to come up?
Nobody and we enjoyed. Do you want to be Roger Berg? Go ahead. You have one microphone.
You're gonna have to represent the opposite side today, just for the fun of it. For the fun of it. I want to see you do that.
Can you? Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate.
This if you want me to devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate. I mean, I want to see. I want to see you sell out.
You have to be genuine, right? You can't vote devil's advocate. You've got to come here and believe what you.
Yeah, so I'm on Arnie's side, who's on BTC side.
Where's Nigel? Any of you guys
We're on BTC.
we're all
Want to be on the BTC side?
Oh, you want to?
Look, it's the only proven, trusted algorithm that's out there. It's been around longer than anything else, and anyone who's stepped away from that is really a traitor to the cause.
Are you saying that implementation defines Bitcoin?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Did you answer my question? Does implementation define Bitcoin?
No.
Then why is the change in BTC defined by the code base?
I don't understand your question.
All right. In science, when something mutates, we give it a new designation. You know, BTC. Yeah, give it a new name. All right. Now BTC has changed. Why is it still called the same Bitcoin if it's mutated?
Okay, you draw a biological distinction, okay?
It's science.
Let's fight there.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, you know that there's a thing called epigenetics. So your DNA changes. There is a thing called epigenetics. So your genes actually change according to your environment. Do you change name every week?
Scientists change the name of any species that mutate. They give it a new name.
Right, but how much does it actually have to change?
Oh, let's get up here and talk. Come on.
I'm from Monero.
Are the cars the same? Are the cars the same as they were 50 years ago?
How much does it have to change before you change the name?
I don't think it's about the name either.
I think that what we need to do is define a question.
I think, to your point, there is no such thing as Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin.
There are two versions of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin doesn't exist.
There are about 70 or 80 forks of it.
But I think there's no.
There's about three of them. There's about three of them that still has the Genesis block. And I agree with you. Implementation does not define Bitcoin, because if you let implementation define a concept, then someone can just change Bitcoin to Lightning coin, and it'll become rubbish. You can't say implementation define Bitcoin.
Do you want Bitcoin to be called Bitcoin?
If it's the closest thing to the white paper and the concept, the pure concept, it deserves the name.
I don't think it matters. I don't think anything needs to be called Bitcoin. It can be called Bitcoin Core, it can be called Bitcoin Cash.
It does for public relations.
For public relations, but I think
Not really.
I don't think it really matters.
It's kind of silly. You're starting out saying something has to be written in stone. It can never evolve, can never improve, can never develop. It has to be written in stone, or it's not the same thing. But if you look at any industry, any conventional industry, we still don't drive around in Model T Fords. We don't drive around on a horse. We don't have a steam engine anymore. None of these things, but they're still called trains. They're still called whatever they are, because
they don't call them Model T Fords anymore. They've evolved. We call them something else.
No, we call them Ford. We call them a Ford car. We call it a Ford car because it's a Ford car. No. They are generic terms. And by the way, genetics doesn't work like that. It's a random thing. But
what's happening is Bitcoin is being confused. The public's being misled about what BTC has become, and everyone's saying, a lot of people are saying, "Hey, that's the original coin. That's the one with the most consensus."
But who cares?
It doesn't matter.
A lot of it, the whole market cares.
Well, hang on, who has the most hash power in
When
this case?
Australians drink Chardonnay, they don't drink the Chardonnay that was drunk 100 years ago. They wouldn't like it. They wouldn't drink the red wine, which was produced by the Romans. You wouldn't be able to drink it. It's disgusting. So it doesn't matter what the term
What's the argument? Give me an argument. Come on.
What does Bitcoin do offer? What does Bitcoin Cash offer?
No, I think also on that, on just one thing, on this, what the point you're trying to make is the name of Bitcoin does matter a lot because there's actually a lot of market value behind the name of Bitcoin. And calling it something else, you don't have the same market value. Just like things like Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond, people don't care about it. They only care about Bitcoin because that's what everyone talks about. That's why there's a lot of fight for the name of Bitcoin.
So Bitcoin is the brand, i.e.
Bitcoin is an idea that has multiple implementations.
Certainly does.
It is a brand.
And it's also a brand.
So, but really this is about two particular variations of that brand. I do happen to think that both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core happen to benefit a lot from their association with the Bitcoin brand. So they both still have that, the benefit of that, but really the argument tonight should be about which is better. Do we, right? And Bitcoin Cash has got the pitch of being cheaper and faster to transact, and Bitcoin Core has got the pitch of Lightning Network is coming any day now.
Well, it's mainnet right now.
It's already there.
So,
Lightning Network's already there. It just doesn't work.
Hang on, lots of people have made lots of Lightning transactions. It does work.
It definitely does work.
Yeah.
To who?
Well, it doesn't matter. You're saying it doesn't work. It does work.
Yeah.
You can't say it doesn't work. That's just a lie.
Not very user-friendly.
It's
Sure,
not.
sure.
It suffers liquidity at scale.
But don't
because
just stand up there and lie to people.
I'll tell you, it does not. It suffers liquidity at scale because
Right, but does it work right now? Can you make a transaction on the Lightning Network? Yes, it does work.
it works about 1 out of 3. It's a probability routing system at the moment, and it's source routing. So I already published an attack for the Lightning Network, and you are unable to prevent the attack. That is, if the source router chooses where the money routes through.
Excuse me, you published this one? You published
Yeah,
it.
I published
Why
one
did you
already.
guys publish it? Why don't you keep it for yourself, and as soon as the Lightning Network is on, you still have the Bitcoins and go home, and your Bitcoin cash goes to
No.
plus
It doesn't steal it. It doesn't steal the Bitcoins. It just
So you can invest the Bitcoin cash that you love so much, and you can crash the Lightning networks, and then the Bitcoin is going to burst, and you will be.
That's the difference between you and me, James. I publish stuff so people can understand it. You try to keep it to yourself to exploit it.
I definitely know what I'm doing. I'm teaching in classes. I definitely say what I know.
You're selfish. That's a selfish attack. I'm not trying to be selfish. No, I mean that's so it's a selfish motive that I do it for gain, whereas I'm saying yeah. Fine.
Should we break it down into give us the top 3 reasons why Bitcoin Cash, and then after that you give your top 3 reasons why Bitcoin Core.
I know.
Bitcoin Cash. All right.
Yeah, top 3 reasons.
The number 1 reason is it has a plan to scale on-chain infinitely. All right. To the limit of technology, because that's what you're supposed to do with technology. Use it to its best. Not just say it can't scale, because that's ridiculous. That's like just saying that's a scale jumping, propaganda that you can't scale. So it has the right method to scale, just that the opposite argument is saying, oh, that's not possible. But it's doing it right now. It's now.
Does it just increase the block size routinely?
Yes, that's basically all you need to do.
Is that it?
I'm assuming that computational power will just keep speeding up over time.
Plus
There's a
infinity.
limit storage.
So Well, what happens with the energy cost as well?
Energy cost stays the same because difficulty changes.
Say if we go 10 years down the line, what happens to who controls the centralized aspect of it, when it's all ASICs and they're all controlled by big farms.
That's got nothing to do with the block size.
Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are both assets.
That's the limitation. Eventually that becomes reality.
Totally, but there's no difference between Bitcoin
Yeah,
and
that is
Bitcoin.
proof of work, but that's what it's based on.
Yeah.
So computational power for the next 10 years won't go up as much as it's done in the last 10 years. It's not starting to reach a limit. Computational power it's storage and which might been increasing in terms of Moore's law for the last 100 years.
Not Moore's law. It's not Moore's law anymore. It's less than Moore's law. Moore's law is starting to degrade, and computing power is starting to kick off less. Yeah, but you need to validate transactions, so you require
Moore's law was
computing
written by
power.
a guy who worked at IBM, wasn't it? Yeah, right? So his law is not a law, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Moore's law was Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel.
Intel, sorry. We are running Bitcoin right now on bandwidth and technology that's about 20 years old. On a limit, bandwidth technology limit, it's about 20. We're 20 years behind scale. We can actually go a lot higher without getting close to the limit. Now, you see a lot of stuff that's running on the internet that's ridiculously bandwidth intensive, things like Google doing 300 hours of video recording a minute. You got Netflix and all those streaming services. The bandwidth limitation is massive. It is huge. So to argue that we have a problem with bandwidth, which is the number one argument from the BTC technical side, to say that we can't scale because of bandwidth problems, it's all based around the propaganda that you need to run a little node from your little computer. Everyone has to be able to run it, so decentralized. That's a fallacy because.
So there's no, so it's not decentralized.
Sorry?
So it later becomes not decentralized.
If you run a node that doesn't
It
mine,
becomes centralized eventually.
yeah, if you run a node that's not doing any mining, it's not helping the network at all. It does nothing. It's an orphan node. It's actually an orphan node because whatever comes out of that node will have no consensus. It's, as far as you're concerned, a non-mining node is a virus node or whatever. You know, no, you cannot trust any data that comes out of a non-mining node because that non-mining node has no consensus by anybody. The data that comes out of it is as far as
It can pull its own block. It can pull a blockchain down itself. Whereas SUV has to trust another node.
Sure. Of course, the scalability of proof of work.
You're trusting the code base, full
So
stop,
both
that you don't know about.
cache and core.
Sorry?
The scalability or lack thereof of proof of work is a problem to both cache and core.
Right.
So I don't think the
Energy cost is a design feature
yeah,
of proof of
and the centralizing effects thereof is equal to both of these. I think let's do Bitcoin Cash for a bit. Top 3 reasons.
Let's
Sorry,
go.
Bitcoin Core.
Go on. I don't know the top 3 reasons for Bitcoin Cash. No problem. Let's start. Okay. First of all, I don't think the scalability is a problem. I agree with you. No problem is there. I don't think Bitcoin Cash can actually solve this problem by making the blocks bigger and bigger. Because in my opinion, Bitcoin is going to grow exponentially, and when we say exponentially, we might see 100 times, 1,000 times more people are using it. And for everyday transactions in the future. So even if you try to scale with bigger blocks, again you're going to fail. Because what's a bigger block? It's just more data, but you don't keep the data, you don't make them smaller, you don't make something radical. It's not like the bulletproof, for example, on the Monero network where they reduce the block size, the transaction size by 90%, correctly? Yeah. You don't reduce the actual transaction size, and if we start doing everyday transactions, if you count how many transactions you do in your everyday life, it will maybe, let's give or take 10 transactions per day. So if all of the people, 1 billion people, let's say, in the world, make 10 transactions per day, it doesn't matter how many gigabytes blockchain you have, it's going to fail pretty much. So the thing is that
Why?
we have. Why? Because
Visa does that much.
Yeah. Yeah, Visa does that much, but it's not centralized. Has it centralized? Your example, you say that. Let me finish.
Why centralization is going to stop? It's gonna
Yeah,
make
okay.
it-
I don't want to go and it's centralized in my wallet. If I want to go which is centralized, I can buy Australian dollars, I can buy US dollars, I can buy other dollars. I don't need another centralized coin. I want a coin that I can run to my computer if possible, or at least lots of people can run to their computers. Then I can validate using my own node, because when you use your own node, then you have your own copy of the truth, saying that just a node exists without giving any being a virus, as you said, or something earlier. It's totally incorrect in my opinion, and the nodes are extremely useful because they validate what the miners are doing. And if you remember, about 6 months ago, everyone was in war with the miners. Oh, the miners are doing that, the miners doing the other thing. But actually the nodes check if the miners are doing the correct thing, if the miners are following the consensus algorithm. So the nodes are super important there. And
how does the node stop the miners from doing the wrong thing?
They don't stop them, they expose them. They say,
How?
I don't validate if the miner is not in accordance with the consensus.
How do they signal it?
They
Yeah.
not-
Might be accepted by the other miners.
Yeah.
All nodes that aren't mining don't have to be accepted or not accepted.
The other miners are sorted out. You don't need
If I have
non-mining
my
nodes.
own copy of the truth, I can see if it is fake or not the block. What do you understand about
Where are you
that?
getting that from? You're getting that from
From the node.
the miners, right? You're getting the data from the miners,
Yeah,
and then you
block from the
what the miners
miners,
have already done.
and you validate the block. Validating the block is not as hard as creating the block.
Yes.
Yeah?
And you're
so
saying
I
that-
validate the block and see my own truth.
You can't do a whole lot of data.
Yeah, but I can see if it is true or not. I can expose, I can write on Twitter, I can not accept transactions. I can do something, I have the truth, I know what's happening. If it is centralized and I trust a centralized authority to tell me what the truth is, maybe lots of stupid stuff are happening. Maybe
This
lots
is
of
the wrong
fraud is
way to
happening,
think about
but I
Bitcoin.
don't even know about it.
I'll give you a scenario. Let's say the words together. The miners can work together, right, and agree that we're going to start working together and
Yep.
get a block.
Yep.
Right? In both these scenarios, right, the miners can go and do that.
Yep.
But in Bitcoin, you can use a node and you can see this validation. You can say, you know what, we're going to form together and create our own miners and go your own path. That was half the truth. Whereas Bitcoin Cash, you can't tolerate a transaction. You still can, just on your own. Anyone can run a full node still.
Yeah, but like
right,
how
but the
how
power
long?
required to run a full
Yeah.
full node. With storage space. Right, but if you get to a block size of like, well, they're saying 8 gigabytes right now. Like that's going to be the top limit, right? Yeah, it won't be filled like all the time, right? But if you go to a like block size of 8 gigabytes at the top, right? That the like transaction power required to validate every single one of those transactions and relay those across is only going to be able, like you're only going to be able to do that in a data center, basically. So
Yeah.
not only are you're geographically centralizing like where Bitcoin nodes are run, they're run in data centers now because
I
no
think
one.
everyone's forgotten how Bitcoin actually works. Bitcoin is not about trusting the miners. It's about trusting the economic code
But
that's
if, there's,
in the
if
Bitcoin
there is no
protocol.
nodes, if every single node is run out of a data center, don't you think that like represents a risk to centralization?
Yeah, I like to run my own node because I can verify if a transaction comes to me that it's true, right? Like, what happens in 10 years when I don't have the ability to do that and then I have to rely on...
You shouldn't need the ability to do that because if it depends on you to validate it, there's a problem with the way it works.
No, that's a problem within itself
It was
because
designed
cryptocurrency
to be a
was...
trustless system based on an economic code that incentivizes miners to do the right thing. They're not going to try and do the wrong thing and shoot themselves in the foot.
But it was also
So
designed so
you're trying
to get rid of
trust
trust.
a node that costs nothing versus a mining node that spent $100 million or so to do the mining farm. They're not going to try and crash it. They're not going to try and cheat.
One question,
Definitely manipulate it.
But forget about the miners. Let's say the miners have all of the incentives, which they have. I totally agree with you, they have all of the incentives. let's say
There's $20 million a day right now.
I agree with you. I'm
Chuck
not
that
saying
in,
the
keep the money.
let's say you have a centralized data centers. Literally, you need hundreds of terabytes of storage of blockchain in the next 5 years. Just for the sake of the argument. And the main, you know exactly where the nodes are, and you get a subpoena. What's happening there? You get a subpoena from the government, from the US government, or the Australian government, or all of the governments. Wait, here's my hypothesis. You get the subpoena, and the subpoena says do this, that, and the other, and don't expose it, otherwise you go to jail. All of the economic incentives in front of the jail go out of the window. Forget all of the economic incentives, forget all of the proper consensus algorithm that already exists, which I agree, it's a perfect consensus algorithm. But in front of the subpoena, in front of the gun, you have no choice. So as simple as that, everyone should be able to, or not, I'm not saying everyone in the phone should have, I have a cool blockchain here, but everyone with just a few resources, should be able to validate the truth. That's the point. If you have centralized databases, it's actually
it's government
Australian dollar.
It's a most difficult change because if you're saying that there can't be independent nodes because the block size, the bigger block size of VCH is going to put them out of business, it's going to be too big for them. Then what's Bitcoin going to do to offer anywhere near the transaction speed and capacity of the VCH we are?
Lightning Network is what it's going to do.
We need scale.
Lightning Network is the answer to that. And if that, whether it's perfect or not, it's not the point. And it's the same with this increasing the block size. But that's fine. You can.
It's not completely off-chain.
It's not completely. Totally.
It's a derivative.
Lightning Network is also made for transactions like if you've got your electricity at home and you want to have your bill with the electricity company, and they can then monitor your electricity per second and charge you per second. You can have a Lightning Network open up, a Lightning channel with your electricity company, and have every single one of those transactions on the Lightning Network.
That's a theory transaction.
Why would you want to keep doing that? I mean, your relationship with your electricity company, why do you have to stream money?
You're not having to stream money. It's a.
Just pay once a week, once a month.
It's being able to track those. It's being able to track the usage securely. So that kind of happens now with smart meters, but it's going through a central network.
You could deposit, like, say, $200. You open a channel $200, and you go to a shop, you try and spend it. By the time you get to the shop, someone's spending $200 on Lightning.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying that it's just like increasing the blockchain is not perfect. Increasing the block size.
Someone's already pushed your $200 across to the merchant, and you can't spend it.
In a fantasy where Lightning Network doesn't have issues, it is actually a very good answer.
Look, guys, technology does not evolve in the span of a day or something. As you know, all of the especially people who are older than 40, let's say, they know that when the internet came, you couldn't even send emails properly, it was crashing. Then when we had the ability to send emails and attach an image, then again the whole internet crashed, it was not able to handle it, and goes forwards. If we go to this particular day, for example, I cannot live stream 8K VR video on my computer. I cannot stream it. So internet is it's crowd. No, it's not crowd. It scales step by step. And not being able to scale is actually a good thing, in my opinion. It means that lots of people are using it above its capacity, so it has lots of incentive to go forward. Let me finish there. There are lots of people who say, I have heard, this coin, this shitcoin has it's so speedy and it can take up to 1 quadrillion transactions per second. It's actually two computers in the same room transacting with each other. They have 2 nodes and that's all, and no one is using it. So,
Lightning Network is only an admission by Bitcoin Core that the system is just Bitcoin Core is inadequate.
All right, let's wrap this up. It's been going on a good bit. So 90-second closing remarks from each person. Harrison, go.
Okay, so my main 3 takeaways, and I'm not even going to say the words on-chain scaling, but 3 reasons why I like Bitcoin Cash more than Bitcoin Core. Number 1, its willingness and ability to use hard forks to upgrade the network is absolutely manifestly critical to evolving the cryptocurrency over time. No matter what happens, we need the ability to change the consensus rules with the ecosystem in agreement on a particular time and date, and that is something that Bitcoin Core has categorically refused to do for years. that is a detriment to Bitcoin Core, and that is why I believe that Bitcoin Cash is a superior variant of the Bitcoin idea. Secondly, I think that it isn't a dichotomy. There isn't off-chain scaling versus on-chain scaling. The reality is that we will need both technologies to scale cryptocurrencies to a world where there are 5 billion people using whatever Bitcoin it may be every day of their lives. So it's my view that a Lightning Network on Bitcoin Cash that has 32 megabytes of block space to bring people into channels and off of channels is much, much more usable and more cost-effective than a stifled Bitcoin Core network which can use the same technology but only has 1 megabyte of block space. The answer is not all in on Lightning Network. The answer is both, and let the technology mature before you force the entire ecosystem to wait to scale. The answer is we need both, and Lightning Network isn't ready for mainstream use yet, and even its proponents concede that point. It is developing technology that has a lot of potential. It also has a lot of critical economic and technological flaws that need to be solved first. And lastly, it has decentralized development teams because there's no central team that manages the repository. There are multiple teams. That's the enemy.
I totally agree with you, not totally, but I strongly agree with you, Harrison. But I will say that I'm not just a Bitcoin Core supremacist or something, say everything is Bitcoin Core. But we should not forget the principles of Bitcoin and why Bitcoin came into existence. I want to see I don't have problem to go to 3 megabytes or something if that makes sense. I don't have problem there. But I want to see the core principles of decentralization, open, secure, open, and all of the other properties stay there, not exit the network and we have a centralized Bitcoin system. Also, I want to see more different guys. Okay, guys, let's assume that Lightning Network is a piece of shit. Okay, we're going to find something else. So we're going to improve Lightning Network. We're going to make so different that we have to put a new name. I don't know what we have to do, but we will find more and more because there are lots of money to be made from someone who's able to actually develop all these things. So there's lots of incentives, and definitely people are going to come with very good ideas. The thing is, let's keep the core ideas of the Bitcoin. Let's keep the decentralization there. Let's not forget about why we care about decentralization, and we can see what's happening with Twitter and all of the shadow bannings and all of these things and all of the information we don't have access to. And let's remind ourselves that we need to have the information. We need to have the ability to check if something is okay or not. So because Bitcoin tries to be, in my opinion, the new kind of gold, and in the old ages when we were using gold, it wasn't something that someone had the gold somewhere, all of the gold, and we were trusting him to say exactly how much that gold he had. We actually transacted in gold. So the same way we have to be able to see what the nodes are saying. We have our own copy of the truth. That's all from me.
Bitcoin's not about decentralization per se. It's about fault tolerance. Okay? To achieve fault tolerance, you don't need decentralization to the extent that everyone can run their own node. You don't need that. That is a false narrative. What you need is enough decentralization. What you can't do is say, hey, I can't run a node, so we have to, I've got a shit computer, I can't run a node. So, we've got to handicap this world-scale project because my computer's shit, I can't run a node. Let's handicap this project. So, yeah, we can't handicap a world-scale project for the lowest common denominator. We can't. We have to be realistic and say there will be a certain level of hardware requirement for the world-scale project. If you can't run a decent computer to contribute to this world-scale project, please don't force this project to stifle because of you. We need a world-scale coin. We cannot run it on a shit computer. Sorry, we can't decentralize down to your scale. That's it.
Thank you very much. Nanook, last words?
Well, I didn't really have much to add to that discussion. I will just mention that the design, being based on gold, has a terrible Gini coefficient, and all the money centralizes anyway. So let's design some currencies that actually work for large-scale adoption for money to the masses, potentially cash with a conscience even. But leave Bitcoin in all its versions to particular uses, not for farmers in India to buy coffee, but for, you know, interbank settlements, potentially, as what gold has traditionally been used for. And the scaling needs to be done on a level and a currency that actually meets the needs of the people. That would be my fundamental argument about currency design in this case.
Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, James. Yeah, round of applause for Nook moderating this evening. Thank you. All right. Well, that was a heated debate. I don't know how gloves off it was, and there were only a couple of new ones here, so I don't know if that was entry-level stuff, but I hope you found that quite engaging, exciting, and if anybody wants another debate, maybe wait a couple of weeks. But let me know, and we can organize something with this one. And if anybody wants to research anything in the next week, Ani, maybe you want to do that whiteboard and explain what you want to do, or anybody else, please come to me after this. But that is wrapping up this portion of Talk and Trade. But as we usually do, we've got some people who want to do 90-second pitches. So 4, maybe 5 people up here who wants to do 90-second pitch. Leon at the back there wants to do a 90-second pitch. Anybody else wants to do a 90-second pitch? We've got James, we've got Leon, we've got Harrison, couple more spaces here. Glenn. Anybody else? Heath, you're standing up now.
Does everyone have one of these and one number?
All right, 5 seconds for the last pitch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I guess not, but if you do want to be a community VIP member, please go see Karen at the back there. $50, free Hyperledger IBM tomorrow night, and a t-shirt. That's my pitch. All right, let's start with James.
Hello, guys.
And you can have 2 minutes because it's been quiet.
Yeah, I'm doing a lovely course called Psychology of Trading this Sunday, 2 p.m., lunch included. First of all, we will have the tickets I gave you earlier with the number. Let's have a draw for the super lucky guy who is going to come for free.
Okay.
I'm going to roll the dice here, my digital dice. 76. I have some more fun numbers.
76. Anybody? 76. Chicken leg. 76. I don't know.
19.
19. 19.
Going twice. 70. I have some more fun numbers. 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
15. Come on, guys.
15. 15. 15.
Going twice.
Right. 54. 54. There we go. We have a winner. Round of applause.
Also, if you just saw the ticket at the entrance, you get a 5% discount. Okay, now what we are going to talk in this course. Sorry? Finish.
Yeah. Do not hack my computer. That's not mine.
So, in this course, we are going to talk about all of our emotions while trading, or when the price starts going up and we never cash out, and then as the price goes down, then we get depressed and we sell at the bottom of the market, and then get even more depressed, and we try to take our money out of the market. We feel that the market stole our money, so we want to take them back, so we do even more stupid decisions, so we lose even more money. We end up losing all of our money at the end of the day. So we'll go through all of these emotions, and we will discuss how we can create your own trading plan to counter all of these emotions and not actually trade at the heat of the moment, but you have already a trading plan. You have pre-decided what you're going to do at each particular scenario. So you don't trade at the heat of the moment, but you predict all of the possible scenarios, which are either goes up, either goes down, or goes sideways pretty much. But you can create a trading plan for each particular trade, and you can actually trade in a cold stage or in a hot stage where all of your emotions come in and you get crazy, take all of the wrong decisions. That's all from me.
Thank you, James. Round of applause. He'll be here to talk to him if you want to know more about the psychology of trading. I'm going to go this side. Glenn, I know. 2 minutes.
Okay, mine's actually an update from some of you would have been here last week. I said that I sent 0.4 Bitcoin to a guy, and as we were about to count the money, he jumped in the car and drove off. Jumped in his car, and I was like, unlock the window, and he drove off. Right, so I went to the police, and this is kind of nice. Daniel Madonna, police officer there, who actually knew about Bitcoin. He said, "Oh, there's too many pump and dumps," he said. So I think I got lucky with the policeman. So he took a lot of interest, and he sent me this email yesterday. "Good morning, Glenn. I've obtained the details of the guy who took the Bitcoin from the phone number you provided, and his picture matches that of the male in the CCTV. So that's good, because I went and found the CCTV. Now it's a matter of trying to locate the offender so I can look at charging him. Right? Can you attend on Thursday for a statement?" So not bad, huh? So we think this stuff's is illegal, and when you are changing, we kind of hide when they're changing in Bitcoin for cash and whatever. This is me going to the cops and saying that I was selling Bitcoin for cash, and this guy ripped me off, and he's gone and done the due diligence, and it sounds like the man's going to be in trouble. Woo!
Thank you. Here's an experience for those on the web, watching at home, or at a cafe. That's a piece of advice for you. All right. Thanks, Glenn. 2 minutes, Harrison, start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harrison McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Azira project. So Azira is a distributed social media and business platform that is in the process of securing an exclusive announcement today. In the process of securing $2 million in funding to build a platform for everybody to share information and value freely. I'll be working on this project for the next several years, and I'm about to go full-time on this project. So that's thank you to everyone here who's helped me go from basically nothing to now flying to Hong Kong in a couple of days to help get some more people on board with the project that we aim to build, which is to merge blockchain social media with a decentralized exchange and a peer-to-peer marketplace. So we take the benefits of Steam, BitShares, and OpenBazaar and put them in one easy-to-use, user-friendly platform for everyone in the world.
Thank you. Excellent. A quick one from Arnie over here. No, you can go. I know Leon's one, so you're just you've got a quick pitch. Go.
Just a little thing tomorrow night. I'm doing a talk and presentation on trading for beginners. So if you're new to trading crypto, it's in St Kilda, 82 Acton Street, which is normally a Bitcoin Cash meetup, but we're going to talk about trading of all sorts of coins, obviously. So, and there'll be like an AMA, so you can ask me anything. It doesn't have to be about crypto, it could be about geopolitics or whatever. Anyway, if you want to find out more, come and talk to me later, and you can join my Telegram group where you get nice information. And tomorrow night, I think it's 6.
Upstairs.
It's upstairs. It's like a little 82 Acland Street. Come to me and I'll give you more details.
All right, thank you, Arnie. Which is the same time as enlisting cryptocurrency and Hyperledger here tomorrow night. I know, I don't mind it, but I just had to do a plug for our events. All right, last is a person, one of the new people that has entered the doors of the Blockchain Centre. So please welcome to our community and ecosystem, Leon from Pompeii.
Thank you guys, thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for making me feel like the most stupid person in the room. Yeah, I'd love to say I've learned a lot, but yeah, you guys have just blown my mind. So I'm here today. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Pompeii. It's a project that we basically kept offline for about 9 months. We've just achieved basically seeding. We basically self-funded this entire project. It's about 5.5 million AUD. So I'm not a tech guy, I'm not a developer. I'm an engineer by trade. Basically, we put the corporate structure in place. So we've got all our legals in place, trademark registrations, and yeah, the corporate side. We're developing a platform, basically, sort of like my friend said before, we're creating a currency that I want to basically, for everyday uses. Now you're talking about, I think we're going to put it on the light for, the light drive blockchain, which is in development. I know I've got that wrong, but yeah. Well, basically why I'm here today is basically to get you guys on board. We've basically got the legals in place and the corporate structure. Now I need to fix this little bit, which obviously you guys in the room specialise in, and how we're going to do this. So we've got the funding. Now we just basically need to connect this side of the puzzle, how we're going to start transacting. So if anyone's interested in joining a really good team, even though I might not sound like I know what I'm doing, I'm not from this world, I'm from more or less a corporate world, like I say. So yeah, we're kind of recruiting team members. I can tell you more about the board. We've got some really good, interesting people on, both financially and from the tech world. We had to outsource a lot. We're probably over 90 seconds on. We've outsourced to India. We're a Perth-based company. And yeah, any details, I'll give you some cards, and if anyone's interested in joining the team, I'd love to have a chat with you. And this is the first time in front of anything like that. I'm not a spokesperson, so I apologise.
Leon, one more. I know that you guys want to go. Before that, before Karen, Lockmum comes up, if you do want to network after this, please go to the Belgian Bee Cafe, which is across the road. There's some specials for all Blockchain Centre community people. I'm sorry that I'm glad Age is not sponsoring, but hopefully next week. But apart from that, we are putting to Karen.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to tell you about a new pitch night that we're doing based off our demo night a few weeks ago. So the last Thursday of every month will be a blockchain startup pitch night. So if you've got any ideas you want to share with your audience, there'll be 4 spots and there'll be room for one larger sponsor to do an hour. So it'll be 4 5-minute pitches with 5 minutes for Q&A. So let me know if you want to speak. I've got 3 spots for you. Okay, thanks everyone, and thanks to Anouk for hosting. Anouk, where are you? Anouk. Right over here. Thanks Anouk for hosting, and to John as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you everybody. Hope to see you.